22 Russian tanks and armored vehicles moved into an assault. But before that formation could create a real breakthrough, the sky above had already found it. This is the new reality in Ukraine, where an armored attack may no longer begin when a tank fires its first round. It can begin much earlier, at the moment a reconnaissance UAV spots movement near a staging area and turns that movement into a target. For Russia, the danger is bigger than losing one tank or one APC. The greater risk is that the whole formation can be read before it reaches the main battle line. The lead vehicle can be hit first, the convoy can be slowed in open ground, and then drone FPV strikes and artillery can turn that movement into a chain of trapped targets. This is what makes the story different from a normal drone strike video. The real issue is not just a burning vehicle on a battlefield. It is the way Ukraine is turning drones into a complete combat system, from surveillance and fire correction to direct attacks on armor. The most important question is not how many vehicles Russia lost in one assault. The deeper question is why tanks, armored vehicles, and expensive systems are becoming harder to protect in a battlefield where almost every movement can be seen from above. So how did Ukraine turn the drone warfare into a multi-layer trap for Russian armor? Drone warfare now sits at the center of the Ukrainian battlefield, because the first weapon to shape many fights is no longer a tank gun or an artillery shell. It is the camera above the road, the sensor watching a tree line, and the small strike platform waiting for one clear moment to attack. A Russian unit can begin a movement with armored vehicles, supply trucks, and infantry carriers, but that movement is exposed if a reconnaissance UAV is overhead. From above, the road is not just a path. It becomes a map of speed, direction, spacing, and weak points. The operator does not need to see every soldier perfectly. The operator only needs to understand where the formation is going and which vehicle matters first. This is why drones have become more than a support tool. A reconnaissance UAV can fly higher and keep the enemy movement inside view. A drone FPV can come in low and strike the lead vehicle, the rear compartment, the open hatch, or the side of an armored carrier. A bomb-dropping drone FPV can arrive later and hit a stopped vehicle, a trench entrance, or a storage point that has already been marked. Artillery can then use the picture from above to adjust fire and tighten pressure on the same area. The change is not only about the weapon itself. The change is about time. In older battlefield conditions, a unit might need ground scouts, radio reports, map checks, and several layers of command before fire could land on a target. In Ukraine, that chain can move much faster. One operator can detect a vehicle, keep it on screen, pass the position, and help bring it into a strike sequence before the formation reaches the defensive line. That speed changes the feeling of the battle. A Russian convoy may still believe it is outside the most dangerous zone, because no trench is visible and no heavy fire has started. But if a UAV has already caught the movement, the fight has entered its first stage. The convoy is being measured before it is being hit. The route is watched before the first explosion. The Ukrainian side can strike early, wait for the road to narrow, or hold fire until the vehicles bunch together. This makes the drone powerful in a way that is easy to miss. Its strength is not only the low price or the small size. Its real power is that it connects sight with action. It turns a moving vehicle into a tracked target. It turns a pause into an opening. It turns a wrong turn into a chance for artillery, a drone FPV team, or infantry defense to act. That is why the Ukrainian battlefield now looks different from a normal armored clash. The tank still matters, and artillery still matters, but they are often guided by the eye above them. A gun can fire better when a UAV corrects its aim. A defensive position can hold longer when drone FPV teams slow the attack before it arrives. Infantry can stay hidden while the enemy is forced to move under constant observation. If a small weapon can decide when a larger battle truly begins, then the lesson is clear. Modern war is no longer only about who has more armor. It is also about who can see first share faster, and strike before the other side understands that it has already been pulled into danger. Once drones become the central eye of the battlefield, Russian mechanized assaults face their greatest risk long before the vehicles reach the Ukrainian line. A Russian mechanized assault becomes dangerous for its own crews the moment a reconnaissance UAV sees it leave the staging area. The vehicles may still be far from Ukrainian trenches, but the formation has already lost part of its protection. Its route is no longer hidden, its timing is no longer secret, and its first mistake can be studied before the first shot is fired. The scene begins with a simple movement. A tank rolls forward at the front, armored vehicles follow behind, and the convoy tries to cross open ground before Ukrainian fire can react. To the crews inside, the plan looks direct. Move fast, keep spacing, push through the danger zone, and reach the Ukrainian defensive belt before drones and artillery can lock on. But a mechanized assault needs more than steel. It needs speed, distance between vehicles, and surprise. If a reconnaissance UAV finds the column early, all three begin to collapse. Speed becomes easier to measure. Spacing becomes easier to judge. Surprise disappears because Ukrainian operators can watch the attack form before it reaches the point of contact. Once the direction is clear, the Ukrainian side does not need to rush every strike. The UAV can follow the lead vehicle, mark the road, and identify the machine that matters most. That may be the tank clearing the route, the carrier loaded with infantry, or the vehicle holding the formation together. The first drone FPV does not need to destroy it completely. It only needs to stop it or force it off course. That first impact can change the whole movement. If the lead vehicle is immobilized, the convoy behind it loses a clean path. Drivers must decide whether to brake, turn into rough ground, squeeze past the damaged vehicle, or reverse under pressure. None of those choices is safe when a reconnaissance UAV is still watching and artillery is being adjusted onto the marked zone. This is the moment when the assault begins to lose its shape. Vehicles that were supposed to move as a controlled formation start acting like separate targets. One crew tries to keep moving, another hesitates, and a third may turn toward a tree line or a narrow road. The attack is no longer built around momentum. It is now shaped by confusion. Ukrainian fire becomes more dangerous when the convoy is forced into a narrow route, an open field, or a crossing point near water. In those places, the drone FPV team does not need to search across a wide area. The targets are already compressed. The road itself becomes part of the trap, and every vehicle that slows down gives the next operator more time to choose an angle. Artillery adds another layer to the pressure. A shell may not need to hit every vehicle directly. It can land near the road, break spacing, block movement, or force crews to abandon a route planned only minutes earlier. When drone FPV strikes and artillery pressure meet in the same space, the convoy loses the ability to act like one body. That is why the most dangerous moment for a Russian armored column may not be the explosion itself. It may be the pause after the first vehicle is hit. Is it worse for a convoy to be destroyed outright or to stop exactly where the other side has prepared the next strike? From this point, the story is no longer about one vehicle being hit. It becomes a chain reaction where a single blocked machine can expose the next tank, the next APC, and the next part of the Russian assault. The real danger for Russian armor begins when one damaged vehicle turns the whole assault into a slow-moving target field. A tank is built to push forward under fire, but drone FPV warfare attacks something more fragile than armor. It attacks rhythm, direction, and the small gap of time a crew needs to recover from the first hit. A T-72 moving near the front of an assault route. Its job is to help open the way, give fire support, and keep the vehicles behind it moving. From the ground, the tank still looks powerful. From above, it becomes part of a pattern. A reconnaissance UAV watches its movement, reads the road, and waits for the moment when the tank slows near a narrow section. Then the first drone FPV comes in low. The hit does not need to break the entire tank apart. It only needs to damage mobility or force the crew to hesitate. Once the T-72 stops, the road behind it changes immediately. The vehicles following it cannot keep the same spacing, and the assault begins to lose the clean shape it needs to survive. That is when the second strike becomes more dangerous than the first. A stopped tank gives the drone team more time. If a hatch is open, if smoke forces the crew to react, or if the upper section becomes exposed, the next drone FPV can aim for a weaker point. A tank that was supposed to lead the attack now becomes a burning marker on the route, showing every vehicle behind it where the trap has started. The next target captured a more valuable Russian tank, a T-90M fitted with extra protection. This kind of vehicle is not only a weapon. The crew added a cope cage, extra plates, and electronic warfare equipment, but those layers do not remove every weakness. A drone FPV does not need to fight the front armor like another tank would. It can search for the rear area, the turret gap, the engine deck, or a small opening created during movement. When the T-90M turns, climbs, slows, or tries to adjust its position, the angle changes. That short moment gives the operator a chance to place the strike where thick armor offers less protection. The hit damages the engine area and triggers fire inside the vehicle. The tactical loss becomes larger than one tank. Other crews watching the strike now understand that extra armor can delay danger, but it cannot erase the eyes above the battlefield. Another APC moving with troops or supplies near the assault line. Unlike a tank, this vehicle carries the human side of the attack. It brings infantry closer to the fight, moves ammunition forward, and helps keep pressure on Ukrainian positions. When a drone FPV finds it, the strike can break more than metal. When the APC is forced to stop, soldiers lose protection at the worst possible moment. They must dismount, scatter, or search for cover while the same UAV keeps watching. In cases where the vehicle carries ammunition, the danger grows even faster. One precise hit can trigger a secondary explosion, and the transport vehicle becomes a fire source instead of a support platform. These three scenes show why Russian armor is losing part of its old breakthrough role. Armor still matters, but it no longer moves through the battlefield with the same freedom. Once a vehicle is seen from above, every pause becomes dangerous, every turn becomes visible, and every delay gives the next drone FPV a better chance to strike. Fog, darkness, and bad weather once gave attacking forces a chance to move closer before defenders could react. But in Ukraine, those conditions no longer create the same protection. A Russian convoy can still use low visibility to reduce the risk from direct observation, yet the battlefield is now covered by sensors that can turn even a hidden movement into a target trail. The scene often begins before sunrise or under a gray layer of fog. Russian vehicles leave cover slowly, with engines running low and lights reduced. The crews may believe the weather is working in their favor, because the road is harder to see from ground positions and the tree lines appear to break up the shape of the column. But a reconnaissance UAV does not need a perfect picture to understand what is happening. It only needs enough movement, heat, and direction to follow the formation. Persistent ISR changes the meaning of concealment. It does not rely on one quick look at the battlefield. It keeps watching long enough to read the route, the pauses, the speed, and the places where the convoy is likely to slow down. When a vehicle disappears behind trees, the operator can wait for it to come out. When the group stops near a crossing or a narrow road, that pause becomes a signal. The enemy is no longer invisible. It is only harder to see for a short moment. Thermal imaging adds another layer of danger at night. A cold road can hide shapes, but a warm engine can stand out. A soldier leaving a vehicle can leave a clear signal. A truck that has just moved can be easier to identify than a silent object sitting in the background. This does not mean every target is always easy to find, but it means darkness is no longer a safe wall between the convoy and the Ukrainian operator. That is where the trap begins to close. A Russian column moving through fog may think it has avoided early detection, so it can keep a tighter route and continue toward the Ukrainian line. But if a UAV has already caught the movement, Ukrainian teams can prepare before the vehicles enter the most exposed part of the road. The convoy may still feel hidden from ground fire, while from above it is already being tracked step by step. Once the path is understood, drone FPV teams do not need to search blindly. They can wait near the expected approach, watch for the engine heat, and strike when the target slows. The first hit may land on a vehicle that is leading the route, carrying troops, or protecting the movement. After that, the same poor weather that was supposed to protect the assault can make recovery harder because crews struggle to see clearly while Ukrainian sensors keep working. This is why bad weather has become a double-edged condition for Russian forces. It can still reduce visibility and complicate Ukrainian observation, but it can also make Russian crews overconfident. If commanders believe fog will hide the assault, they may push vehicles into routes that are already watched. If they depend on night movement, they may face thermal drone FPV teams waiting for heat signatures instead of clear shapes. Ukraine's answer is not magic. It is a layered routine built around patient observation, night-capable equipment, and fire teams ready at the likely approach lines. The more Russia uses darkness and poor weather to move, the more Ukraine studies the routes where such movements are likely to appear. If thermal drone FPV warfare has changed the night battlefield, what technology will matter most in the next phase? Leave your view in the comments. Ukraine is no longer using drone FPV only to hit vehicles near the front line, because the battle has moved into the Russian support system behind the assault. The target is not just the tank that appears on the road. The target is the fuel that keeps it moving, the ammunition that keeps it firing, and the electronic shield that tries to protect it. The first layer is logistics. A fuel train or an oil depot may sit far behind the trenches, but its value is felt directly at the front. If fuel storage burns, tanks wait longer, trucks reduce movement, generators lose operating time, and artillery support becomes harder to sustain. If an ammunition site is hit, guns may still exist, but the rhythm of fire slows when shells and rockets stop moving on time. The second layer is the electronic and drone infrastructure that Russia needs to keep its own system alive. An electronic warfare station can block signals, protect vehicles, and disrupt Ukrainian drone FPV attacks. A radar can warn air defense crews. Antennas and relay stations can extend control over Russian UAVs. A drone FPV training center can prepare new operators for the next wave of attacks. When Ukraine hits these sites, the loss is not only hardware, it cuts into Russia's ability to see, guide, jam, and defend. This is why the drone war has become an integrated combat system instead of a chain of separate strikes. The process is simple, but the effect is serious. A reconnaissance UAV sees movement. A drone FPV slows the vehicle. Artillery hits the marked area. Tanks or infantry hold the defensive line. Deep strike drone FPV attacks the fuel, radar, or command support behind the same sector. Each part supports the next one, and the Russian assault becomes harder to rebuild after every failed push. A new layer is also forming above the front. Ukraine is developing a kind of horizontal air defense with low-cost interceptor drone FPV teams. The goal is to hunt Russian reconnaissance UAVs, such as Orlan and Zala, before they can feed targeting data to artillery or guide strikes on Ukrainian positions. This matters because a Russian gun is far more dangerous when it has eyes above the battlefield. Remove those eyes, and the fire becomes slower, less accurate, and easier to avoid. That creates a difficult choice for Russia. If its UAVs fly lower, they become easier targets for interceptors. If they climb higher, they may see less detail. If they carry more protection, they become heavier and more expensive. Ukraine does not need to stop every drone to change the pattern. It only needs to make Russian reconnaissance more costly and less constant. At the same time, electronic warfare is no longer a complete answer against Ukrainian drone FPV teams. Russia can jam radio signals, but fiber optic FPV changes the fight by sending control and video through a cable. That gives the operator a steadier view and makes the strike harder to break with normal jamming. The weakness is also clear. The cable can limit distance, movement, and freedom over rough ground. Still, the idea shows how fast both sides are adapting. This is the wider meaning of the battle. A single drone FPV strike on a tank can start the story. But the real war now reaches fuel sites, radar screens, training centers, air defense gaps, and the sky where drones hunt other drones. Ukraine is not only attacking vehicles. It is attacking the system that allows those vehicles to move, see, fire, and return for another assault. The clearest warning from Ukraine is brutal. A tank can still be powerful, but it is no longer safe just because it has armor. Russian artillery, infantry, and armored vehicles still matter, but they now operate in a battlefield where movement can be seen early, tracked from above, and attacked before the assault reaches its real starting point. Ukraine is not only hunting single armored vehicles, it is targeting the full chain that keeps those vehicles alive. Fuel, ammunition, radar, electronic warfare systems, drone FPV operators, launch sites, and reconnaissance UAVs are all becoming part of the same battlefield. This is what makes the situation so important. The fight is no longer only about who has more tanks. It is about who can see first, strike faster, and connect drones, artillery, infantry, and deep strikes into one system. Russia will likely try to adapt. Moscow may use more electronic warfare and more scattered tactics to reduce losses from large armored pushes. But the bigger question is still open. If every road, staging area, and armored formation can be watched from above, can mechanized warfare still rely on speed and thick armor the way it once did? If this analysis helped you understand the changing drone war in Ukraine, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Military Force for more clear updates on weapons, battles, and the geopolitical shocks shaping today's world.